Canouan, warm, beautiful, idyllic. This island, part of the nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is marketed internationally as a place to which billionaires go to escape millionaires. With its world-class marina in the south and internationally renowned resort and golf courses in the north, all seems well here. Except, of course, if you arrive via the main wharf on the island. If you talk to the local population, sandwiched between the multi-million-dollar tourism investments on either end of the island, a different picture emerges.
Well, we need some good roads, the medical facilities, of course, the public clinic need to be upgraded and so forth. And our main issue, of course, is the jetty. We need a proper wharf. So there are a lot more, but those are the main ones at the moment, I'm certain. In terms of medical, we have the private clinic, but it's not everybody is able to afford the medication there. So if not, you have to go to mainland and so forth. The jetty, it's not in a good condition. If you walk on the wharf, you have stones hanging on you. If the vehicle drive, you can damage your foot and so forth because it's not there properly done. So those definitely need to have proper movements and everything.
How do you feel about the fact that you live on an island where in the south and the north there's significant tourism development, but where the people live, the conditions are far from ideal?
Well, that's a definite problem in truth. There's so much that can be done that, but nobody is doing anything. So that's a bad thing. So we wish that much better. With the road especially, we need proper movements and everything. To be able to move around properly instead with potholes and all that. We don't need that.
Curtis Adams, who depends on the resort for his livelihood, points out that getting there by road is quite a challenge.
The roads in Canouan, especially going to the resort, is in a very bad state. It's been over 20 years now and there's nothing doing to the roads. People from the government always come to Canouan, measure roads and so, but up to now we see nothing going on in Canouan. And the operators them here having a little problem with the roads. It's a very bad state. If you can go up to the Granby Hill, it's very, very bad. So we need the government to really come and do something about it.
For some people, beach access is a challenge in the northern end of Canouan, where the resort is located.
For me, I don't have a problem with that because I don't really want to get up in that. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm a worker here. I do transportation to the resort for the staff. So I'm not being a part of this thing, but this issue is not really my problem.
I wonder how I could draft this document.
Terry Bino is a prominent resident of Canouan who has been involved in decades-long activism, advancing what he sees as the best interests of the island.
Well, to be honest with you, Kenton, all the people in the Grenadines live already. We have some investment on islands. And I too could understand the plight because it's very expensive and difficult to get guests to come to these parts. The distance is far. It's expensive. You don't have commercial flights. Basically the business in Canouan, in the north and the south, is really catering for rich and famous. I would hope in the near future they could review the way in which they do business. Maybe open up for mass tourism in a scale not where the poor class of people would come, but maybe the middle class too can enjoy these parts, because sometimes rich people would book with your establishment. You get a deposit from the credit card, they wake up tomorrow, they change their mind, they go somewhere else. You still don't have that occupancy. So I would hope it would open up to a sort of middle class thing where we can have more tourists coming to the island instead of just waiting for a rich to come.
But they say that Canouan is the place where the billionaires come to escape the millionaires.
That's true, but sometimes it's how much billion they might come. And when would they come? So I hope something else can be done to really draw, because you're marketing and we don't see that occupancy with.
Bino, a businessman, was speaking to Eyewitness News on the weekend of June 4 when the inaugural One Fest Canouan was held. He felt that many islanders had missed an opportunity to showcase their skills and talent as well as their creativity.
Our community need to open up to their own sort of tourism, maybe for the passing guests by yachts. When the yachties come here, there isn't really anything in the community for them to see. Our business people here need to step up to the game and do something different. You know, we don't see craftsmen and women from Canouan. You know, like for instance the expo they had yesterday. We see a lot of people from Beckway, St. Vincent bringing their stuff and showcase. As a tourism island, you don't see this sort of niche from the citizens of Canouan here. Everybody just wake up in the morning and they go to work and they work for chicken and rice and they go back home. And that's it. So we have to start doing things differently to try and step up on the game.
Terry, one of the things that I heard about before I came and I'm hearing about and I'm seeing for myself is, for instance, the condition of the wharf and some of the roads here.
Yes, I do agree with you that we do need a wharf. But I think there was an agreement with government and the investors to partner into doing something like that. I don't know what's the hold up, how far it got, but we do need a wharf, you know, so to make things a little better and easier for the citizens. And I do hope that maybe this year we'll see the government making that step to start our new jetty or whatever it may be. The roads, yeah, will need some attention. They're not as bad as some of the roads on mainland. You would agree with me, but you know, basically that's it. Because if you check it, Kenton, Canouan has two investors, major investors. You have Soho now. You have a jet port. It's a fairly small island with all this investment. Population about 1,600. I'm not seeing the lives of people, you know, really getting there. You know, so something is wrong somewhere that we need to fix somewhere along the line. Getting the community more involved, trying to have talks with people. And there's a lot of businesses, but what you have is more shops selling flour and rice, chicken, rum. There's nothing for the tourists. And we do have a lot of passing yachts passing through here. You know, we need more to offer to them so that they can tell their friends to come.
Laverne King of Grenadines Gold, a sea moss exporting company, was one of the organizers of One Fest Canouan.
I think that there are people who are looking for more things to happen on island. Sometimes you feel as though Canouan is a little bit stagnant. There are others who may just come for a day trip or two who think that is the most beautiful place on earth. But sometimes if you walk across the market area, you find a lot of young people with nothing to do. If you go across at the wharf area, you'll find that it's devastated. There's just so many different things. It depends on who you ask, what's going on. You might get a different story. My thing is, I'm from here, I love it here, but I think that there's a need for more developmental projects on island. I think as well that there's a need for the airport, for example, to be resurfaced. I think there's a need for the jetty to be fixed. So,
Does it need to be fixed or does it need to be rebuilt?
well, initially it should have, the story was that it needs to be fixed, but at this rate it needs to be rebuilt. If you're in that area, you'll realize that because of the temporary jetty that was placed there, we're having some erosion on the left-hand side of the beach. So before we used to have a flat surface where you can go and have different sporting activities that the young people love to be a part of. But now half of the beach on that side is gone, and for me this is not a climate change problem, it's a man-made problem, because had we fixed the jetty, the water would have been able to flow as it normally should, but for whatever reason it's just not getting the attention that it needs. And we're finding money for every other projects all over except to do things that are really critical. I mean, the wharf is not just a matter of we need a wharf, we need a wharf. It's part of the livelihood of the people. It's where most of us get our goods, our stock, and all of that from. So it's a very important project that needs attention.
And what about the roads?
The roads are horrible. I don't know if since the last government, meaning the last NDP government, if there's been any road work in Canouan really. If you drive past in the junction area, for example, the road there is basically falling in. If you're not careful, you might have a car accident or your foot may fall in right then. It's a hazard waiting to happen. If you drive in some parts of Canouan, it's almost as though there's no road. So there's need for a major road redevelopment project to happen here.
King is also a political activist and spokesperson for the main opposition New Democratic Party. I asked her how she would respond to people who dismiss her comments as just the views of a politician.
I think that people will think that, but the truth is I'm from here and I see it. And I talk to people so often on island about, how these different things are affecting them. I have a vehicle on Canouan, I have to be buying tires ever so often because the roads are horrible. And I think that if we're honest, politics aside, you don't have to sway people for them to see what's in front of them. If you walk past the roads, you can see that they're deplorable. If you go to the jetty, you could see what I'm talking about. So you don't need political affiliation to see this. You just need to be a Vincentian citizen to agree that something needs to be done.
Terry, one of the things that people on Canouan say is that for the extent of the contribution to the national GDP, they don't get back their fair share. Do you share that view?
What is the GDP? We talk it, but we don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I can't say what it is, so I can't tell you directly whether that's a fact or not. Because I could tell you this. For instance, the government, there's a jet boat, $15 million US was borrowed from the Bank of Nova Scotia in Trinidad to extend the jet boat to accommodate the business in Canouan, where people with private jets would be able to get in with a proper runway or a longer runway. Taxpayers has to pay for that. You have a new playing field in the back there with the tennis court. That is also investment in the community built by the state. You have the administrative building where you have courthouse. People forget we didn't have courthouse in Canouan.
Secondary school?
Secondary school. So there is some investment and the government partnership with the investors, if that is the case, whether it has to be deducted in taxes or the government, taxpayers of our country pay directly. So there is some infrastructures in place. So I wouldn't be able to say that, the state maybe ain't doing nothing. That wouldn't be true for me to say. The only thing I would love to see now, Kenton, seriously, is a new jetty. And then when they get a new jetty, what do we complain about? What Canouan need again?
You had been involved in activism for years over beach access, especially at Goodall Beach. Has that been resolved?
Yes, I would say so. There was court matters, there's court orders, things have been settled. I go to the beach if I want to without a problem. They don't stop me.
Tell us about the court matter.
Well, it's basically a settlement out of court, which I can't go into details, but
who are taken home to court?
How that went, but I think it started out with I being sued, over the years of this thing. But, there were talks with me and the investors. We sort our problems out, we settle our differences so that we can have more tourists come into the island and make it a little more peaceful.
Were you compensated? Were you paid?
Well, when you say paid, there were fees paid that cover my cost of up and down with courthouse and overstayed and case put off, basically.
But nothing paid to you to say,
forget about this matter? I don't say that there's nothing paid to me to get rid of this matter. I am not being stopped to go to the north. The investors don't have the right to stop me to go into the public beach. I go to the beach, I get to the gate, I say where I'm going, and I go on. If they stop me, they would be breaking a court order. If I block the road, I'll be breaking a court order. So I think it's a win-win both parties that people can go to the beach.
So you're satisfied that you have the access? And
Yes, there is
other
access.
Other islanders have the access?
There's
They have the access. Whether there is some issues that need to be ironed out that could be solved internally with, it's something to the desire differently. But my brother, I have a boat. I go to Tobago Keys and I don't even go to the beach. But since the matter settled, I've never even gone to the beach up there. So things to me is normal, but we need to spruce up the community. The business people need to really get things, come together and find a way.
King acknowledges that there have been some improvements on the island. For instance, unlike when she was a secondary school student, Canouan residents can now access secondary education on the island.
I mean, it was built under them, but from the best of my knowledge, I believe that this was a joint project between local investors as well. And one wouldn't forget that in order for this to happen, the children had to take to the streets and protest. When you get to that point, you know that it had to become overbearing before something is done. I mean, if you ask your kid to do something and they don't do it and you come home and you beat them to do it, you don't give them a candy after for doing it. It's something that should have been done. And you have to always be whipping and beating the government to do this. Whilst it's something that I welcome, because I remember when I had to go to the mainland to do secondary school, it wasn't an easy thing. I'm happy to see it, but I must also give commendations to Terence Oliver, who had championed this cause in Parliament for years upon years. I remember even my mother had been one of the local persons, because when my sister and I were going to school for a while in St. Vincent, it was so expensive for us to be there. So the call for secondary school had been one that was really long overdue, and I'm happy to see it on island.
Anything else you want to talk about that I might not take about?
Not really, my brother. As I say, we just need the new jetty and we're good to go. Yeah, amen? All right, Kenton, man.
Over the last few decades, Canouan has been transformed as a tourism destination with its new jet airport, marina and resorts. However, as with much of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it seems that on this tiny Grenadine island, getting the small things right is slow pickings. Kenton Chance, Eyewitness News, Canouan.